Welcome back to As Told by You. We have a repeat guest today.
Am I your first repeat guest?
You're the second repeat guest.
All right,
so
good.
Shaquise was on in the fall.
DJ Shaquise, what up, man?
He was our first repeat guest. So you are our second repeat guest, which is really cool. So this is kind of Preach episode 2. It's kind of like bringing you back.
Well, I'm gonna make Shaquise feel really old. He's known me since I was a teenager.
Wow.
Because I was doing shows and doing music when I was like 14, 15 years old. I will be turning 42 this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a minute, right?
Listen, yeah.
We had Jay Matheson on the podcast last week.
Word, absolutely.
And,
Jam room.
And I realized that I had known Jay Matheson for 25 years because we did our my band that I was in. We did our first recording of anything at the Jam Room in 1999.
Wow. I think that's a rite of passage, man. I think at some point, if you do music, you have to have a moment when you went to the Jam Room, you know? So, yeah, so shout out to Jay.
And that's an amazing legacy to create unassumingly, right? That he created that legacy without a whole lot of fanfare. It's just like he wanted to do the right thing for people and provide an opportunity and provide a place for people to go. And he was able to do that, which is just the coolest thing.
So how long has Jam Room been here? Has it been 30 years?
88, he said, was the first one.
Wow.
And I got some of that backstory. And I tell you what's cool about having people that I've known for a long time. You and I have known each other a while, but not quite that long, but like a while.
Yeah.
And to hear some of the backstories and to hear like how people got to where they are and all of that kind of stuff, I didn't realize that you were as an accomplished a rapper as you were until you came on. I knew you were, and I'd known you as a rapper.
Listen,
mainly,
accomplished rapper. I've made dozens of dollars. Like
right. I didn't realize you were that accomplished though. So
okay,
that's
fair enough. Yeah,
but
yeah.
And what's so funny is I cannot tell you how corny it feels for me to say rapper.
Yeah.
If I say rapper, it's like my grandparents saying rock and roll, It's like, it feels wrong for me to say it, but
I don't know.
I say hip hop artist, I guess. I don't know. It sounds corny.
At this point,
that sounds corny too when I say it that way.
I've lost all of the weird vibes of it because we're at the point now where the culture is taken seriously. I think that it used to be a thing that, you used to see memes back in the day where it was like, people would be like, oh, you should get a real job and, but you want to make a mixtape. It's because saying that you do hip hop music was this thing where it was just this insulting thing that you put on somebody. But every other genre of music, you can be a weekend warrior in a rock band, play every weekend, go to places, maybe get laid, maybe not get laid, have a drink tab, and then go back to work at your corporate job and no one bats an eye. But somehow, hip hop didn't have that currency with the community, but all that's changed. Like I'm not even worried about that anymore.
Well, and the thing is, like when I was a kid, jazz or classical was a real musician, and rock and roll was kind of playing around, And I think as us 80s kids have grown up, that's grown up with us, and so like when I'm playing in bands right now, I'm playing with all guys my age. We're playing primarily 2 people our age, and so it's grown up with it. I think hip hop's kind of come, but I think about Kurt Loder, one of those guys on MTV.
Is he almost like 80?
Almost 80, yeah.
The fuck out of here.
Crazy, right? It happens so quickly.
Yeah.
But he would say, a rap artist. He would say that like LL Cool J made news.
His
today.
voice is so great you couldn't get mad at it.
Oh my God.
Here's where, and I had this experience, like. Here's where hip hop had its shift. You're now of the time of adult contemporary hip hop.
Right.
So not the flex, but shout out to Sanford Greene, who is an amazing illustrator from here that does work for Marvel Comics and Amazing Spider-Man, all this other stuff. Has a project called Bitterroot that's being made into a movie that Ryan Coogler is producing, Regina King, Oscar winner, is directing.
Nice.
He also did these posters for the Rock the Bells Festival, which was a festival that LL Cool J did. Right. And LL Cool J is a huge fan of Sanford Greene, who lives in Columbia.
Nice.
And when LL is nearby, he's like, here's some tickets. And so we went to the Rock the Bells tour in Charlotte. So it was LL Cool J, it was De La Soul, it was Rakim, DJ Jazzy Jeff was in between the sets, the Roots, and the Roots was the backing band for everyone.
What?
And one of the things that LL said was, hey, I'm going to get y'all home by like 10 o'clock. Right.
Okay.
And everyone laughed. And I looked around this stadium of like 20,000 people and was like, oh, hip hop is where we are. Where I actually wrote something for this for when I was inside public media with ETV. So you have this local leg of PBS and NPR. There's like an internal site. It's called Greater Public, where internally within NPR we write about stuff. And I ended up writing about, because I was in fundraising, hey, maybe the fundraising leg of these organizations need to look at the hip hop generation. Look, because I looked in that place and I'm like, look at all this money.
Yep.
And I tell you, I'm watching what commercial is it? A Michelin tire commercial, and they're playing a Dr. Dre song.
Yep.
Right. And I'm feeling weird about it, but I'm like, well, this song is 25 years old now. Right. So you look at like where hip hop is right now. I don't have any of those hangups like I used to, because everywhere you turn, the biggest organizations and corporations that might have made fun of the culture, they now need it to be sustainable.
Well, and the thing is, it's become as indoctrinated into, dare I say, white culture, whatever, as anything, right? It's like it's become part of the culture around.
But that was the same thing with jazz, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because the conversation was that, and this is where you would have a lot of the artists that would be in these cultures, whether it was jazz, whether it was blues, whether it was hip hop, that got frustrated because you would have these guys making, like I was rewatching this Louis Armstrong documentary. And it was on Apple TV. And I had a really, really weird relationship with Louis Armstrong for a long time. Because there's this ideal of when they talk about conversations of, black entertainers in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. There's this step and fetch it thing. There's the idea of, black men performing for white publics and smiling too much and this and that. And Louis Armstrong is known for this big, big, big smile. Right. And so even in Miles Davis's autobiography, he was talking about how much he hated how much Louis Armstrong smiled.
Right.
And Miles Davis was the opposite. Miles Davis would do a show.
He'll
turn his back to the audience.
Right.
Miles Davis had this quote. He said, if I had 1 hour left to live, I would spend it choking a white man. Like, so he definitely had this different perspective.
Right.
But I bring that up because he's making really, really like amazing black art, but black people couldn't afford to see him.
Right.
And that happened with jazz. Like the biggest jazz critics were white guys. The biggest people that had the collections were jazz guys or white guys. And it's like, same thing happens with hip hop. It's like, you would go to these tours and it's all white folks, right? And that's not an insult. That's just kind of the ideal of the demographic, right? And so what happens when art is having black conversations with black people and they don't see black people, right? And so that became like the big tug of war that happened with all these genres of music. The person that would talk about blues music more than anybody in the world is an old white guy who's balding. They would try to talk to you about Robert Johnson. They would talk to you about Buddy Guy, right?
All these things that they're just observing. Right?
You don't know about this, like motherfucker, well, right? But that's just what happens.
And I'll tell you, as an aging rock musician, I'm like, okay, it is hard. And look, I will tell you, as a member of the group, it is hard to age as a heavy metal musician, right? Yeah. It's hard. Because if you go to see any of your favorite bands right now, if it's Iron Maiden or Metallica or whoever it happens to be, they're looking old. But they're looking old because of the contrast to what they used to look like to what they have to do now.
Well, yeah. So is it like the tight leather pants make them look old? Like, okay,
not just that, but it's like the kind of approach and what they're singing about and the noise and the way that they got to talk and all of that. It just makes them seem so much older than what they are. Kind of, you know.
Well, hip hop does that. Like, there's a way. My theory behind jazz music, why jazz musicians always look dope to me, like even if you look at the Sinatras of the world or whatever, because they always got these amazing suits on. They look immaculate,
dapper,
right? So that's just timeless, right?
That's
you
right.
know, and I think that with these other genres where people trying to seem young, you get to a certain point, it doesn't feel right. Is Kiss considered heavy metal? What are they considered?
Yeah, it's well, you would say Kiss. So there's a lot of conversation about that in the industry. I would say that Kiss is something that a lot of heavy metal musicians started with. So when you're 8 years old and you find Kiss, you're like, this is the best music that's ever been created.
And then you get older and figure out the lyrics.
Because they're singing about dirty stuff, which is great, and they look like space aliens, and all of it's awesome. All right.
I have a funny Kiss story, but in order for me to get to it, I have to start with a country concert I went to.
Okay.
I think this country artist, is it Morgan Wallen? I can't remember. Anyways, so I write for the Free Times, Post and Courier. I have a column called Fight the Power, yada, 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 award-winning journalist. But outside of that, every once in a blue moon, I'll be asked to do like assignment work. And so this is like a few years ago, and my editor hit me up and was like, yo, we have these Morgan Wallen tickets, and would you be interested in going to the concert and writing about the show?
Right.
And I'm like, are y'all going to pay me? He's like, yeah. I was like, if I go, right? Now, I've never been to a country concert before, and I try to get like some backup. I have a white homie of mine who's from Boston, and we've gone to see Flog and Molly and shit like that. But I'm like, I need like my white backup to go to this show.
Flog and Molly is basically just fighting music.
Absolutely,
it's not really.
Absolutely, listen, we went to see Flog and Molly and Dropkick Murphys. We seen both of those, right? He's like, you got to see them at Gillette Stadium. I was like, dog, I don't know, I would lose my
up in the stands. You don't want to be down there because it's a brawl.
So he's the guy that I bring to this country concert. When we get there, mind you, I don't know any of this guy's music. I don't know any of this stuff. And my friend is joking with me. He's like, hey man, think about this. He said, you're the only black guy in here. They're gonna just think that you're Darius Rucker, and we start laughing. So so we're in here, and I'm bumping into people I know. They're so excited. I didn't know you was a fan of this artist. I'm like, I'm really not.
Yeah.
And there was these moments like if you're at a concert, and like there's a particular song, it's supposed to be a special song by an artist. There was this moment where these women were like looking at me, and there's like this moment they wanted to share where they wanted me to sing the lyrics with them in this bonding moment. I don't know this song. So my go-to is this. I'm just so impassioned. I just close my eyes, right?
You're feeling what they're feeling.
Right. So Morgan Wallen or whoever the guy is, he gets on stage and he's like, later on the show, he's like, all right now, I know you guys from South Carolina. Got somebody here y'all know quite well. He's like, come on stage, Darius Rucker.
Oh, God.
And Darius comes up. My friend's like, the jig is up. The jig is up.
He just called you on stage, man.
So I said that to say, when the article came out, it was really, really lighthearted. And it was kind of like hip-hop artist goes to his first country
fish
concert,
out of water.
Right. Yeah. And I wasn't mean or insulting or whatever. I didn't see a lot of MAGA hats. But it was just kind of like a funny thing. So as a result of that, another homie hit me up and was like, hey, man, if you were willing to go to this country concert, I got tickets to go see Kiss.
Right.
Would you like to go? I said,
when was this?
This was 2019, 2020.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So here's my Kiss story. I said, fuck it, I'll go. So we go to this Kiss concert full of mullets, full of all this shit. And there's a part in this show where, what's his name, Gene Simmons?
Gene Simmons is the bass player, the very tall one that's got the lizard tongue.
So they're raising him up.
Yep.
And he's doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And all the blood is coming out of his mouth or whatever, right? And while this blood is spewing, there's a man in the front row who's losing his
right.
The blood is spilling on him. He's like, losing. And I'm like, who the f is this guy?
It's a religion.
I pulled my binoculars out, my friend's binoculars, and I look. It's Governor McMaster's.
Whoa. Really?
I mean, losing his mind.
Wow.
Losing his
wait a minute.
Absolute mind.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I am not a Kiss fan, by the way. I've seen them once. They were great, and they're a great show. But Governor McMaster does not strike me as a Kiss fan.
Listen, lost his mind. After the show, he declared it Kiss Day and has like this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you. I've never seen anything like that.
Now, Kiss was popular. Kiss came out in the 70s. So if you think about, like, if Governor McMaster was in his 20s, It makes total sense that he would be a Kiss fan.
That was the public enemy.
But in my head, I'm just going, no, that doesn't make
lost his mind. I'm like, who is this old white man losing his? He's
right.
Like, ah! Like, yeah. And right after that show, I think the pandemic like hit right after that.
Right.
And I didn't go to another concert for like 3 or 4 years.
God,
and I was just
amazing.
like, this can't be the last show I'll go to.
Now, I tell you what's funny about anytime you and I get together is we end up talking about music, right? And Brian will tell you when he's on as a co-host, and sorry Brian's missing today, he's on vacation.
Hey, Brian.
But Brian as a co-host does not love talking about music. Like so Jay was on last week, and Jay and I were talking about records that he had produced, and we had to talk about records and like what it meant to make an EP from the jam room, and all that stuff. And Brian was not into that conversation. So I was like, I called him on the phone today. I was like, look, Preach is going to come on the podcast today. And he's like, well, do you want to wait until I get back? I was like, well, I think we're just going to sit and talk about music. And so I think it's okay.
Well, if Brian was here, the spirit of Brian, what do you think he would want to talk about? He
would ask those questions like, well, kind of what we talked about last time. How do you make a living being an artist, right? So that's a hard.
Well, I have an update on that.
That's a hard. Listen, and we had Sam and Ilya on here this spring, and they're professional musicians. They make a living as musicians in their 20s, right? But they make a living, and it's a hard thing to do, right? It's just a difficult industry, but it's also make a living as an artist is tough. And so you have to think about like, what is your approach? And so we talked about that a little bit last time, but I know some things have changed for you recently. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, a few things have changed. So we talked about Soul Haus, the art gallery. I think when I spoke to you last time, I had partners involved with it, and then they stepped back and I took it over completely.
Wow.
And that was amazing because there's a few things that happened immediately. There were a few national things that happened. Number one, we had a book signing an event in there with Ta-Nehisi Coates. And Ta-Nehisi Coates is pretty much the number one author in the world, where when he came to the gallery, he was at CBS Morning News, The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and then he was at MySpace.
Wow.
So that was that first week when his
That's quite a tour.
Dropped. After that, speaking about Sanford Greene was doing some work with Marvel and Walmart, where the new Captain America movie that came out, he did all the illustrations for it. And so there was a collaboration with all the Captain America illustrations was in Walmart.
Nice.
So when Walmart wanted to do this commercial, it was I had to sign 3 contracts. I had to sign a contract with Walmart, Marvel, and Disney.
Whoa.
They shot a commercial in the gallery.
Right.
And these are 2 things that happened immediately when I took it over. Then after that, there was this amazing deep dive story about Dawn Staley that ESPN was writing. And the writer, shout out to Hallie Grossman from ESPN, she reached out to me and she was just like, yo, we want to talk to people in Colombia that are local leaders. We see that you're an ambassador. We see some of the writings that you wrote about Dawn. We want to talk about you. And there was this really, really, really deep dive conversation that we had about the importance of someone like Dawn Staley, the dynamics of Black creatives in Colombia and all that type of stuff. So those are like things that just happened pretty much immediately when I took the space over.
Wow.
And
Providence.
One of the things I've learned with the space, though, is this. And this is where things kind of shifted and changed, was that we were open. When I took the space over, the first thing I started doing by myself, we had like Vista Lights, and Vista Lights is, November, holiday season, no hyperbole, it's like 1,000 people out there.
Right.
And so people are going to be flowing through the gallery the whole time. I have a gallery called Soul Haus, 1223 Lincoln Street. By the time y'all see this, I'll be gone. But there was this moment where when the doors are open, I'm playing music, it's inviting people. The amount of young Black kids that were afraid to walk in the door, just looking through the window, the door is literally open. I was just like, oh, there's this dynamic where their relationship with art galleries is, I can't go in there.
I shouldn't go in there.
Right?
Yeah.
And someone was telling me this story about a gallerist from here, and he was saying that, like, And this is an artist who has work that is being sought after by the State Museum. Amazing work. This guy is amazing artist that does driftwood work, Atiba Smith. Shout out to Atiba. And he was telling me an experience that he had walking into a gallery, where he walked into a gallery and the gallerist was on the phone. And when he walks in to take a look around, the gallerist is like, hey, are you going to buy something?
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's an adult, right? Mm-hmm. And he's a black man as an adult. Mm-hmm. And so if he has those type of experiences, what do younger people of color deal with? And so the shift that I made was, I can't look at this gallery space as a traditional gallery situation where, hey, I got art on the wall, I'm selling art to pay the rent. Because I can't afford the shits on the wall. Right. We got pieces that's $10,000, $15,000.
Sure.
I can't afford that.
No,
right?
Of course, right.
So to me, I'm like, this has to be community outreach. Mm-hmm. This has to be through programming. This has to be through partnerships. This has to be through, hey, you know, whether you Arts Commission, whether you want Columbia, whether you South Carolina Humanities, look at these dope programs we're doing. Y'all foot the bill. Mm-hmm. Let's do some stuff for the community to be involved. Yeah. Let's figure out a way to make art accessible and not just focus on just selling artwork. Right. And do this type of partnership. And ultimately, the owner of the building was just like, I just want this to be a traditional gallery space.
Want to keep it
And
going.
And nothing I do is traditional. I'm not a traditional gallerist, right? Like I never went to school to be a gallery owner. I don't, you know, you can show me a painting and be like, is this romantic or Baroque? I'm like, I don't know, right? So, right. I just know that everyone should have the freedom to be able to experience art. And I went through that during the pandemic where, you know, I won a piece from Shepard Fairey. Shepard Fairey is the guy that did the Obama piece. That I saw them in the Smithsonian, and it was this amazing experience because the Obama piece was just, I saw that when Obama got elected, and it was just this big moment for me. Yeah. And he's from Charleston. Mm-hmm. And so during the pandemic, one of the things, I see this like piece of lynch driving me crazy. It's be on camera. Yeah. So no, but it was a big deal for me because one of the things that hit me was this. It's like during the pandemic, there were 3 industries that I have a theory that exploded. Right? You have, you know, frozen pizza industry exploded because everybody's home eating carbs. Yep. And they're like, so like, I'm gonna eat a frozen pizza, right? Yep. The second industry that exploded, and I was working at Papa Jazz at the time, was that people started buying records and buying turntables. And my theory behind that was always playing vinyl is the only format that you have to make a decision to be stationary. Everything else, you listen to it in your car,
and bring it with you wherever you go.
So when you're playing a record, you're making a decision to congregate with people, to invite people to come around, whatever. So that industry blew up. The third industry was the art industry because people were home looking at their bare walls and they were like, I need to put something on here. Right. And so one of the things that Shepard Fairey was doing was he's like, let's try to like stimulate people investing in art, this and this and that. Yeah. So he did like giveaways. So he did this giveaway of this piece. It was one of 3. It was the printing press that printed it. It was Shepard Fairey and whoever won this. And it was this contest of thousands of people that applied, and I won. Wow. And when he hit me up, I thought it was spam. It was like, hey, congratulations, you won this. Would you like to accept? And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I ended up,
does not compute.
And I looked at the page, and it was like 2 million followers. I was like, oh, this is him. And so I sent him a message, and I was like, hey, what's the likelihood that out of these thousands of people that somebody else from South Carolina won this, right? And we had this conversation, and I showed him some of his other works that's not as valuable, the prints that I have in my house. But I bring up prints because that's how I was able to invest in art, right? So during the pandemic, I'm like, hey, this artist might have an original piece that's $20,000, $30,000, but if he has a print that's 1 of 25 for $500, I can invest in that. Right. And so you would have an art industry or a gallerist industry that would turn their nose to that shit, right? But I come from hip hop. Right. And it's a genre of music where, same thing we're talking about garage bands. If hip hop started in the Bronx and people are in project tenements and the buildings and stacked on top of each other, who the f has a room for a garage? No one has a garage. Who has instruments? But everybody got a turntable. Right. And so when I talk about hip hop, I talk about it as it's a miracle.
Yeah.
Because it was designed for nobody to be able to listen to it. It was a voice for the voiceless. I look at art the same way. So it's just like, all right, well, I deserve to have art on my wall too, even if it's not this hoity-toity that you might think is valuable, or you might think that you're a gatekeeper.
Right.
There should be no gatekeeping for people to be able to have access to art. We need to change this conversation, right? So as much as people revere a Basquiat now, Basquiat was pretty much a homeless black guy that was on subways painting on little pieces of cardboard.
Yeah.
But then you had Warhol that's like, hey, let me come in here, right? So you can't revere Basquiat and look at the young artists that's doing these things now and act like they're worthless because they're the same person, right? So it's like, is it less valuable if you don't have a cosign, a white rich cosign? Like, so I think that's really, really stupid. So I say that to say that, you know, when the owner and the lease was coming up and all this type of stuff, the owner was just like, yo, man, I don't want all this programming. Like, I don't want, hey, all the stuff you love to do, that's great. I don't want it.
Right. Not here.
Yeah.
Not in that spot.
Which, you know, I think is counterintuitive, because I'm like, I don't know how you're going to sell artwork just selling artwork. So
you're next to Soul House was, I guess, next to Michaela's. Yeah. They're next to Michaela's gallery, right? So that seems like an area where that kind of thing would work.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's what that
would make sense.
That would make sense. That's kind of what would go on.
Yeah.
So tell me what you're doing about that. Are you finding a spot where you can do events and stuff? And tell me how that's working out.
There's a few things. Number one, I didn't have enough bourbon to say all this I want to say.
Not yet.
Not yet. I've been here for a long time. I've been doing work here. First time I ever did a show in Columbia, I was like 14, 15 years old. I used to play the Elbow Room. And I'm doing shows, I'm touring, doing all this. I don't even have a driver's license.
Right.
And I turned 42 this year. And I say that to say, I've been involved in this artistic community in Columbia long enough that I can say whatever the fuck I want. And I mean that to say, what I'm not going to do is audition for anybody.
Right. No, nor should you.
And so the idea is basically, what am I going to do? What I really wanted to be able to do was, when I took the gallery over, the first thing I said, how can I figure out a way to do some programming that'll be dope, that'll be compelling, to get people in here, and I can have a high ticket price. Right. Did a wine tasting. So shout out to Lula Drake. I'm at Lula Drake every Tuesday night. I play jazz records there. Right. It's incredible. And I remember I was having a conversation with the owner, and he was just like, look, man, I know we don't have the rate that we can pay you that you're worth or usually get, you know, would this be insulting? I'm like, no. I said, here's what I want. I was like, number one, I want a residency. Like, I want a night where this is my night. Right. What happens with DJs in the city is that everything is consistent. So if you're playing at one of these spaces here, they're like, oh, we have you here on a Friday. 3 weeks later, you want to play on a Thursday? A month later, what about a Saturday? What about a Sunday? And the money might be cool, relatively speaking, but the community don't have an opportunity to connect and be able to build something with you. Right. So you give me my night where you're patient and you let me do my thing.
And build something.
That's it. Right? So I'm like, you give me a residency. Tuesdays is my thing. Right? Number two, and I told the owner, I was like, hey, man, people that come in here and buy wine, they might buy artwork. Yeah. Right? Yep. Because
it's the exact right audience for you.
Exactly. Right. So it just the synergy just made sense. And the third thing that I knew, I'm like, we will have an opportunity to partner in the future. And so what ended up happening, the first thing we did when I took the gallery over, we did a wine tasting, and they just won a James Beard Award. So it's like the James Beard Award winning spot. We did a wine tasting where anytime I do an event, there's going to be a musical component, there's going to be a featured artist component, and Lula Drake is handling the charcuterie, they're doing the wine, and $50 for a ticket, right? Yeah. And it was amazing work, and we did a fantastic job.
Shout out to Tim Gardner, by the way.
Yeah.
And I want you on the podcast, Tim, if you're watching this. Go ahead.
Oh, has he been on here yet?
Nope, not yet.
All right, Tim.
I'm gonna get him on
here. Yeah, but the event was just so amazing that after it was over, shout out to Justice over at Little Drake. She was like, "Oh, I got this idea." Then we ended up doing this partnership with Food and Wine. We did something called Vino and Vinyl.
Yeah,
where it was like, "Hey, we're gonna combine." They're doing 4-course meals, 4 wines, 4 different regions. I'm doing records that matches these different regions. And it was just a conversation with the food. Anyways, the tickets went on sale on a Thursday night, but Friday morning it was sold out.
Nice.
Right? So that to me is a proof of concept. That to me is when there's an opportunity to have art related with music, I can make that work.
Right.
And I can make that work in very, very intimate spaces. So originally what I wanted to be able to do in that art space, when we first went in there, I was like, this needs to be a vinyl lounge with artwork.
Right.
There needs to be an art component with music. I need to be able to do events with shows. I need to be able to do wine tastings and do, book signings and do artist related things and do cool shit. And that's going to be the things that not only just pay the rent, but be community based.
Yeah.
So I say that to say what's next is I need a spot that's like, yo, preach whatever you want to do.
This is your spot.
We'll leave it alone.
Yeah.
Right. And for now, there's some partnerships that's going on. So shout out to Coker Center that's doing some partnerships with us where, they didn't even know about me leaving the space. And they were just talking about just partnering with, hey, we would love to have some artwork from Soul House and the vibe and energy of Soul House. And now we're kind of like bringing in some of the programming I wanted to do in the gallery and kind of expanding that. There's been amazing conversations with the State Museum, Museum of Art. So Soul House is kind of like this mission statement is I tell people what I've learned is getting out of the brick and mortar. I'm disappointed I'm leaving the space, but I'm also like, I need to be a Black artist that is an evangelist of promoting other artists.
Yeah,
that look
definitely.
like me, right?
Right.
And so to me, like the literal translation to the word, the gospel is the good news. And so there needs to be a way to be able to say, I need to get y'all out here to see this.
Right.
And what happens that I see all the time is I've seen it happen with these organizations where whether it's a Coker Center or a Museum of Art or a State Museum or when I was, or an ETV or all these places I've had these relationships with, there's always these conversations of how do I get diversity to come into this building?
Right.
Right? How do I get young Black and brown folks in here? How do I get young people in here? How do I get insert dynamic in here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, then I come from hip hop culture. It's like, well, that mixtape culture, I'm going to come to you.
Right.
And that is the thing that I don't think the establishments understand about how to approach art is that quit waiting for these people to come to this brick and mortar. There might be a reason they're not coming to this brick and mortar. I just did a panel discussion with Dr. Nancy Tolson at the CMA. Shout out to her, who's also on FAAC, which is Friends of African American Arts and Culture at the museum. We just did a talk with Bank of America for this Black exhibit that they have in there. She was telling this story about there was this event that was going on at the CMA, and it was something happening on the Boyd Plaza. Mm-hmm. And it was tons of Black folks out there.
Right.
A demographic that the museum wants to come into the museum.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
What happened was, she said the only time Black people walked into the museum was just to use the bathroom.
Wow.
And then they walked back to outside to the Boyd
Because like
Plaza.
You were saying, they don't feel like they're
exactly,
invited.
right?
Yeah.
And so the conversations will always be, oh, do Black people know where the museum is? Motherfucker, on Main Street.
Hard to miss.
Know. Yeah. Like I've gotten plenty of tickets out here, right?
Yeah.
So the conversation shouldn't be, why aren't y'all coming in here? The conversation be like, all right, let me come to you.
Yeah.
And let me open myself up to feel bad if I ask you, why haven't you come in here?
Make sure you know you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes people just don't want to feel bad. That's the think tank part of it. It's like, yo, why don't you want to come to this? You got to be open to that.
I will say that, with the CMA specifically, my wife and children and I have been to the CMA several times. Mm-hmm. There are some amazing things in the CMA.
Absolutely.
Like you go in there and you see some paintings, you're like, how in the world were they doing this in 1536
Absolutely.
or whatever? But it does not feel, that art at that level does not feel accessible, right? Even from my perspective.
I
Like
feel
I
the
don't,
same way. Mm-hmm.
I don't see it and go, this is for me in any way,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have a Basquiat story. Would you like to hear my
I would
Basquiat
love
story?
to hear this.
I'm glad we got to talk about your experience with Soul House. I think that's really interesting
And
stuff.
I'm breaking news here. You're the first place.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And look, I love bigger and better, right? I love to say, if you can get done what you need to do, let's work on that, right? Mm-hmm. So we went to DC in April. My wife and daughter and I went to DC in April over spring break. My daughter had never been to Washington. And the very first place we went was the Hirshhorn Museum of Modern Art. Okay, I don't know if you've ever been to the Hirshhorn or not. And you want to talk about the embracing of hip hop culture, the embracing of street art, the embracing of kind of avant-garde forms of art and what makes up art, right? So in the key exhibit at the front was that they had a Banksy. Okay, and that's what they said in the front. And I had never seen a Banksy in person. If anybody knows what Banksy is an artist in England. Nobody knows who it is. And
if you had to guess, do you have an idea who you think it is?
I've heard so many things, and everything from like one of the royal family to down to like I heard somebody say Noel Gallagher from Oasis is Banksy.
The closest thing that I saw was one of the members of Massive Attack.
Yeah, so that I had heard that one too.
Yeah.
And so I had seen there's a documentary called Exit Through the Gift Shop that's about Banksy. So I got all of the information I have about Banksy I learned from that thing. But Banksy does stencils on the outside of buildings, okay, which calls into question who owns art, right? Banksy is one of the most famous artists in the entire world. And so what happens when Banksy puts a Banksy on the side of a building, the Banksy becomes more valuable than the building.
Yes.
Right? Which calls into question, do you cut the wall out of the building to preserve the Banksy, right? So that's what they did. And the Hirshhorn has a wall. It's a wall where he took a Basquiat. There's a Basquiat painting called Robot Boy with Dog, okay? So from like 87 or something like that. And he stenciled Robot Boy with Dog on a wall and then stenciled police arresting the Robot Boy with Dog. Okay? And it is one of those few times where I've witnessed art that just froze me in my seat, and I was like, I cannot comprehend how incredible this thing is.
Could you imagine walking in there and somebody saying, "Are you going to buy something?"
It's life size. Okay?
Am I going to buy this fucking wall?
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, of course. And look, you want to talk about priceless? How do you put a price on it? You can't put a price on it because nobody ever sold it, right? So who owns it? Who has it on loan to the Hirshhorn Museum? Oh. Is it the person that owns the building? Because they don't own it.
It's like
right?
Yeah.
Is it some Indonesian trading company owns this Banksy now? Because they own the building. I mean, it's a shocking introduction to kind of the ownership of art and how art is portrayed. And this is one of the things that Warhol did. This is one of the things that Basquiat certainly did. That I don't know. A lot of the art in that museum was one of those things where it was birthed out of street art and then became art, and that's what Banksy always was. And there's such a power in that. And my favorite things have always been those things that you said, okay, this isn't what the mainstream dictators of art decide it is. This is what the artist decides it is, right?
Yeah. I tell you.
You look at Michel Duchamp, putting a toilet in an art gallery and saying this is now art because I've decided it's art, you know? I think that kind of stuff.
Or the banana with the
banana taped to the wall. And my daughter and I have had this conversation. Like she jokes about it because that's the joking thing in high school. Ha ha ha. But it's art because it was determined to be art.
Yeah. Well,
right.
I'll give you an example. So this is a hip hop analogy, but I think it fits this. So there's a hip hop producer. Shout out to Ninth Wonder. When I was talking about doing these writings for the NPR leg of inside of the media that I was in with PBS, when I was writing that article about, hey man, if y'all looking for donors, y'all need to look at the hip hop generation.
Right.
It was a story that I told. The Ninth told me. The Ninth is a hip hop producer from North Carolina who's produced for Jay-Z, Beyonce, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, won Grammys, all this other shit. He was a professor teaching like hip hop studies at Duke University, and also he started doing stuff at Harvard. He became a Harvard fellow,
right?
Talking and teaching about hip hop culture. So he tells this story about, and I might get some of it wrong, but he was like at Harvard, and there's a museum there. And the curator of the museum was like, "Let me give you this tour." And she's taking him around. He tells this part of the story where they have this room where it looks like National Treasure or whatever the movie Nicolas Cage was in, where the way I see it in my mind, they have this big thing and they twist this thing and they open it up. And it's thick piece of glass. And she pulls out this thick piece of glass. And in this thick piece of glass, it has a bunch of like pieces of paper with scribbles on it. And she said, these are the rough drafts of the Gettysburg Address.
Whoa.
When Lincoln was trying to figure this out. When he was trying to sketch this out. And I was like, wow.
Whoa.
So she takes this thick piece of glass, put it down. Right next to it, she pulls out another thick piece of glass. And it's a flyer to one of the first hip-hop concerts in the Bronx.
In the 70s.
In the 70s.
Wow.
Cedric Avenue.
Right.
Cedric and Cedar. And she said to us, meaning Harvard, Gettysburg Address is just as important as this.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so that's why...
it's just older.
That's why I don't have that hang up anymore.
Right.
That's why if you say rapper, I don't have that hang up anymore. Right?
Right.
But, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, man, I was fighting local organizations and local, concert events about their conversations and their language was hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now I don't give a fuck anymore. Right? Because I'm like, I don't have to prove anything, right?
Right.
Like there was always these conversations.
That's age too, though. By the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. The lack of living, but
40 plus, you get go. I don't care.
But that was the thing too. Is that it was that I hate hearing those conversations where people are saying things where you should say what you want to say,
right,
and not give me the vague, right. So when
niceties, right.
So when do I have enough bourbon for this? So when the owner of my space is like, yo, I don't. When he's asking, he's telling me about what he don't like about what I'm doing in the space. He's like, I don't like all that nightlife stuff. I'm like, nightlife. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I'm old. The event's done at 9:00.
Yeah,
right. And truth be told, I know the history of that building, where that building used to be, God bless the dead, Wim used to be at IFART. I used to be at shows in there.
Oh, yeah.
I saw how late those shows were. Them shows used to be BYOB.
And can I tell you, they had avant-garde jazz in there.
I got a story for you on top of that.
Where it sounds like somebody tripped over the instruments.
Listen, I'm going to give you two things. There was a show that I went to because I worked at Papa Jazz. And one of my guys I worked with used to book these shows over there. They had a gong player. Wow. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I'm going to tell you this. And this... Clip this up for when we do this.
Listen, gong is only for the end of the song.
Listen.
That's it.
Absolutely, right. I'm not exaggerating. This was the show. Because the first thing that ran through my mind was like, I'm so glad I didn't bring a date with me.
Yeah.
The guy had a gong. I'm not exaggerating. Bing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Bing. Like, it went on for 20 minutes. Right.
Now, at what point do you get tired of good music? Right.
Listen, here's my thing. Because what I ended up doing, in the spirit of the vibes of what that was, I did some of those shows at the gallery where there was literally a guy that did a show a couple of months ago where he basically, what equipment did he have? Because I filmed it where all the sound just sounded like TV static.
Oh, wow.
Just loud.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not gonna yuck someone's yum, right? Because I'm like, okay, if this is an art space where this is acceptable, and there's a precedent for this being acceptable, and on top of that, when them shows used to happen, people used to BYOB. They used to bring their own beers and shit like that. I never did that. I have a reputable place, right? But if that's the precedent that I've seen in here, and then when I started doing this in here, where I have an amazing band. We sound fantastic. I brought 2 Grammy nominated artists 2 times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that gets diagnosed as nightlife. Then to me, I'm like, well, say what you want to say. Right? Say what you want to say. So to me, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not arguing.
But you can take the high road at this point, right?
But the thing is, listen, man, high road or not, I feel like I don't even think it's a conversation about a high road. I think it's a conversation about, are we a city that is going to move forward or not? Because I remember the amount of music festivals that would just dog hip hop music. And it would just be like, oh, hip hop, the language is this and it's that and blah, 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 blah. And and this is a time where I'm doing the crime blotter. I did a crime blotter for the paper for 15 years. So I'm like, okay, if I'm looking at something like St. Patty's Festival and they're dogging hip hop, I'm like, I read the amount of police reports that happen at y'all's events. Mm-hmm. I see the public drunkenness. I see the harassments, the sexual harassment. I see all this.
It's not a little bit.
Not a little bit. Mm-hmm. My job was to go to the police station every week and read the police reports. Mm-hmm. And y'all are sponsored by alcohol companies, right? Yeah. So, okay, if you don't want to for hip hop, then what about all the other genres of black music, right? So that to me, it's like I want people to say what they want to say.
Yeah.
Right? There's a place from here that I ain't gonna say the name of it, but it was like there was places here that had the reputation that was like, hey, if we have a free event, let people in for free, but if black people come to the door, charge them. Because black people don't tip. And this is make up for them not tipping. Like, this is stuff that I've been living with for years.
Sure. That
I've heard for years here. Right. I'm not telling you what I'm thinking. I'm telling you what I know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so when people say to me about anything that happens with art in Columbia, I'm like, if there's anybody in this city that's done enough to be able to say what they want, it's me. Definitely. So to me, when you ask what I'm doing next, it's like, I'm not going to be anywhere where you look at the work that I'm doing and you're like, I don't want to do that. Okay, cool. I'll go somewhere else.
And a lot of times that's what helps to clarify your mission.
Yeah.
You know, to say, if I don't have to put up with it, I'm just going to do what I want.
I mean, right? but I give you an example. When I did a hip hop comic convention called ColaCon. Mm-hmm. And I had to fight to get money for it, fight to get sponsors for it. And I remember there was one year, it was a hip hop comic convention. So I brought like Ghostface here one year.
So is this hip hop and comics, or is there such a thing that is a hip hop comic?
Hip hop and comics.
And comics.
So check it out. I was ahead of the curve because when you see stuff like Into the Spider-Verse, which is the animated thing that came out, where I'm literally wearing the Jordans from it. Right. The Spider-Man movie that's animated, where it's a Spider-Man character who's actually a black kid. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is hip hop and comic books.
And then Miles has become a legit Spider-Man. You know,
so you have that. You have Marvel Comics is doing something called variant covers, where they would take all these hip hop comics, or they would take all these comics and would get these artists to do hip hop interpretations. So you would get the X-Men, but the illustration would look like De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising album cover. Right. And they had a whole series of this, right?
Well, so I'll tell you one of the things that made me pay more attention to Wu-Tang when it first came out is that RZA was into like RZA and Tarantino got together on Kill Bill, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, RZA, like from Wu-Tang Clan? Uh-huh. This was back at a time, this is mid-90s, you know, where I was listening to hip-hop, but only through I took Public Enemy, and Public Enemy from heavy metal. Yeah. I took Public Enemy into Dre and the other stuff that I felt like was okay for me to listen to, right? But Wu-Tang, for some reason I never got into until I heard about that. I was like, well, let me look into this guy, right? And he's making comics of his own, and he's got all this other kind of stuff, and all of the Wu-Tang members have their own kind of character that they've developed around it. And then I listened to the 36 Chambers for the first time, and I'm like, my God, this is a crazy collection of sounds, you know.
Sidebar, I have one of the photos from the actual photographer. His name is Danny Hastings, who did that cover of 36 Chambers.
Yeah.
I have one of the photos that he signed, that he took of that cover. He has like a limited edition joint.
Right.
To me, I'm collecting like that.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Stuff that's not hoity-toity.
Right.
That's the stuff to me
it's important.
That means something, right?
Yeah.
So when I was doing Colacon was 10 years prior to the Spider-Verse.
Right.
To the point where when I was doing Colacon here, we had Talib Kweli one year. We had Rhapsody, who's now a Grammy winner. We had Ninth Wonder. We had Ghostface from Wu-Tang. We had Fight from Tribe. We had Dead Prez. We had Pete Rock. We have all these people here. That's this hip hop, and then we had the top people from the comic book industry coming here for it. I got word back where I was going to be on a panel, so I ended up doing the panels for Comic-Con. Did a panel in this comic convention in DC, and one of the guys in DC, when I said to him, I was like, "Hey, my name is Preach Jacobs." The guy said, "Oh, you're Preach Jacobs." And I'm like, "What the that's supposed to mean?" He told me that at one of the New York Comic Cons, there was a panel talking about the relationship between hip hop and comics.
Right.
And there was an argument that was on stage about me.
Oh, wow.
Because one of the guys was just like, "Yo, man, why are we in New York, the home of hip hop, and we're just doing a panel?" Right. Where I was in Bumble, South Carolina. He didn't mean it as an insult, but yeah. He's like, but in South Carolina, there's a whole convention that's dedicated to these two worlds.
Right.
But all we're doing is a panel here. Right. So the conversation was basically like, all right, well, is this city going to be open to being ahead of, or are we waiting for Charlotte, Atlanta, and all these other nearby places to show us what to do first? And that's the hardest part about it, right? And I think by the time this comes out, this would be the 10-year anniversary when the Confederate flag came down. Right. And I think all those things are intertwined, where at some point in time, what happens with Columbia or South Carolina in general is that you get a young couple that's like, "Hey, we're married, we're going to have a kid. Do we stay or go?" Right. And when you decide to stay, despite all this other shit that's going on, especially if you're an artist, artist that know all the uphill battles you deal with being an artist, and you decide to stay in South Carolina, that's a revolutionary act. Yep.
Well, and I'll tell you what I found in this season. So since you were on last, we've probably had, I think we've had 30 episodes or something since we talked. Yeah. I got to talk to so many people from Emil, De Felice, and Kali Gallman, who's doing the.
So Emil is done with Soda City. What's he doing now? He just retired?
He's not done with it. He's just not operating it every day.
Gotcha, okay.
So he's still going. Absolutely. But I've had so many people on here that I've talked to that said, "Okay, you've been everywhere in the world. You've lived other places, and you've come back here, right? What makes you come back here?" Mm-hmm. And so often the answer is family, right? Mm-hmm. My mom's here, my grandma's here, whatever it is. Yeah. But so often it's like there's a community here that I just don't have in other places. Yeah. Right. And so I can say as a musician that probably wouldn't have made it anywhere else. Mm-hmm. I can be a musician here, and it's a happy thing for me, right? I'm playing next Saturday. I'm excited about practicing. Yeah. It's like, this is cool. Let's keep doing this, right? I'm not sure I could be doing this in Manhattan or in LA. And
by the way, all my friends that be trying to talk about you should move to New York, man. I got friends that be like, they be spending $5,000 a month on rent, dude, and they live in a closet.
I'm gonna tell you what else. I'll be able to go out on my porch tonight and hear the crickets and nothing else.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah,
and there's nowhere to do that in Manhattan.
Yes.
If you're in Manhattan, you're hearing everybody all the time. There's people on top of you. There's people on the bottom. Listen, as you get older, and I'm telling you, look, 42 is good, right? I'm gonna be 52 this year, and I'm gonna tell you, as I get older, I want quiet.
Absolutely.
Right?
Listen, I saw this meme that said people will talk about if you could make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Yeah. And then they can't drive a car. Right.
That is a challenge. That is a challenge. It's definitely one thing we don't have to worry about here is understanding public transportation.
Yeah. But I think that also plays a part of what you're talking about, where I think that there has to be a higher local self-esteem.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think happened for a long time. It's like when I was younger, involved in hip hop and appreciating hip hop, all the hip hop I listened to were people that lived in New York or all these other places, to the point where I was ashamed to be from South Carolina, right?
But look, you look at rock and roll bands, man. I'm telling you, when I was in high school, rock and roll bands came from L.A. Or New York City area, New Jersey, whatever. Bon Jovi came from New Jersey. I didn't love any of those bands, but that's where they came from, right? And or San Francisco or something like that.
Bruce was Jersey too, right?
Yeah, Bruce was Jersey, right?
So how big of it was to the rock community when something like grunge came from Seattle?
Well, yeah, it just came out of nowhere, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, what other cities have really good music?" It's like when Outkast came out of Atlanta, right? And everybody was like, "Okay, let's pay some attention to Atlanta."
As a way this Outkast hat, I'm gonna tell you the greatest thing that happened with Outkast with me, which helped my Southern self-esteem.
Because you got the hat on.
That's it. So here's my thing. Here's the conversation about Outkast that made me really understand the importance of being here. Outkast is on a record label called LaFace Records, and it was a combination of
Babyface and
L.A. Reid, right? And their decision was, because both of them had been in the industry for a long time, we want to sign nothing but Atlanta artists, right? So Outkast is from Atlanta, Goody Mob from Atlanta, TLC was from Atlanta. T.I., Tony Braxton, all these other people. So they started this when nobody was with Atlanta artists, and turned all these people into these really, really big time artists. And they proved this point. It was like, yo, we ain't gotta go nowhere else. Right? So when you start to see the appreciation of the music coming from your region, your community, your area, and people that sound like you, talk like you. I used to work at Sounds Familiar record store, and they gave me the name, so that's my record label. But I used to work at Park Lane. When AT Aliens by Outkast came out, we sold so many copies that we accounted for like 1% of their national sales. Battery dying on us?
I don't know. What's that? Was it monitor? What? I don't have anything set to beep. Well, and I'll tell you, man. When I listen to music for really one of a couple of things. I want people to go hard, right? So even Michael McDonald and the Doobie Brothers goes hard.
Which, by the way, did you watch the Yacht Rock documentary?
Amazing.
yes, me too. Yeah,
incredible. and I've always been a Yacht Rock fan. I just didn't, but like Michael McDonald goes hard. He gives it, right?
Absolutely.
I don't want anybody half doing it.
Absolutely.
Right? And so when I heard Bombs Over Baghdad, I was like, that's a metal song.
Yes.
That's a heavy metal song. Right? The way that they were hitting those beats, the way that they were playing with the rhyme scheme, going in and out of the beat, right? All that stuff, I was like, ooh, this is progressive. Like, this is like heavy. And I thought the same thing about Public Enemy. I thought the same thing about some parts of The Chronic. Were like...
Did you ever watch the Defiant Ones documentary?
Yes.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Eminem is a perfect example of that, right? And, Eminem still has some of the hardest... hip hop songs that I can't think of anybody that goes much harder than Eminem. One of the things I liked about Kendrick Lamar when I first heard it was he goes hard. He like you can feel that connection to something he's trying to get out, right?
It also helps when you have a Dr. Dre co-sign.
Well, sure, of course. Well, but like when I hear something like, Taylor Swift, Taylor's not going hard. She's a lot of those. I mean, sorry to the Swifties. I love you guys. Don't come after me. She's not going hard.
He's saying it's not me.
No. Yeah. But I mean, she's phoning it in sometimes, and that's all right. It's okay. She's getting older. It's all right. But I mean, she's connected with her audience. It's not, but it's not for me. It's not something I like, right? And so I think it's really cool that I think the genre that I love, which is Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, that stuff. And the genre that you love are basically doing the same thing. We're just doing it in different ways.
This is why
right?
I always had this conversation with Dave from Blue Tile. Shout out to Dave. Where I always thought that skater community, hip hop community, all
similar.
Match.
Yeah.
Punk community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like they're all communities that were kind of treated as throwaways. Right? So when you put those things together, it always makes sense. That's why like when I did Colocaine, and combining hip hop culture and comic book culture.
Yeah.
I'm like, neither one of these cultures are taken seriously. Right. So like, of course they make sense to bond together. Right.
Definitely.
Like, think about Wu-Tang Clan. It sounds like comic book characters. Ghostface Killer, Raekwon the Chef, Method Man. Like there's comic books, right?
Dude, and I'll tell you, listening to the 36 Chambers, you're listening to a comic book.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's stories going on through that whole thing, and I think that kind of stuff when you could. It's the same thing about the Chronic too. If you listen to the Chronic, it's like because the Chronic was one of the first hip hop records that I bought based on the radio because I was delivering pizza at the time.
Really,
I was surrounded by this every day, right? So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy this because I really like it, right? I like Snoop Dogg and I like the whole thing, but that's a story. The Chronic is a story, you know, going through it, and I love the way that always ended up. Well, Priest, look, we could talk for another hour.
Absolutely.
And this is not Joe Rogan. We can't go 3 hours.
3 hours.
So, you know, it's like.
We can talk about take your alpha brain.
That's right. I got to get sponsors to go 3 hours. I can't. Maybe Uncle Nearest can sponsor us next time.
Yeah.
Hey, but thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for indulging me, man. I appreciate it.
Good to have two timers on here. We'll have to have a 5 timers club, you know, when you can get the coat, you know, the smoking jacket on.
I'll see you next year.
All right, there you go. We'll do it again. Just another year.
Right. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man.
Yep.